Mike Sempervive here with you for the next hour talking about professional wrestling, which is something we do every single day here on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Tune in, iHeart, American Forces Radio, Cable Radio Network 2, SportsByline.com, over-the-air affiliates. Maybe you're listening via podcast or video streaming on Twitch or YouTube. However you're joining us today, I'd just like to say thank you. Hopefully wherever you are, it's sunny outside. If not, hopefully it's sunny inside your mind. Cloudy day here on my portion of Delmarva. For all of you who are listening on the Carolina coast, I hope you're okay and cleaning up well. That's why we're getting a lot of our rain, the front that moved in over there. Not sure how it is over where the big boss man Bryan Alvarez lives. But if he watched NXT last night, which I believe that he did, I didn't see any write-up on the front page yet with his exclusive subscriber wrap-up of everything, but if he watched it, I would say his mind's pretty cloudy right now. I bet he didn't like that show at all. The march to the CW continues. Going to run down everything that happened later on the show. Bryan is going to be back tomorrow with me on this show, and tonight for subscribers of the website, he and Dave will be talking about tonight's AEW Dynamite, and later on we'll run down everything that they have announced so far for the show. And if you just can't get enough Tony Khan, well, guess what? He's going to be featured on NFL Films Presents tonight, The Beauty of Football, 7:30 on FS1. The episode was filmed on the third day of the NFL Draft on April 27th. Cameras followed Khan as he spent the afternoon working with the Jaguars team at their home offices, and then followed him to Daly's place where he oversaw a 3-hour live television broadcast of Collision and Rampage on TNT. As you may remember, that's when Tony was wearing the neck brace during the draft, when he was selling the effects of the TK driver given to him by the Young Bucks and Jack Perry on the April 24th edition of Dynamite. I believe Filthy Tom Lawler is going to be joining me. We'll see when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live.
Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful. Okay, can everyone hear it?
Yeah.
There's a mystery bell at Granny's house. She can't hear it. Take off your headphones for a second.
I had them on wrong anyway.
Okay.
I can't get them on right. What?
Right. Take them off and listen.
You have in your elbow?
Is the fan on a computer?
Nothing.
All right. Well, this is going to be an exciting show.
Gonna have bells ringing through the whole thing, and it's every week. It's got to be me.
Do you have a neighbor that's an ice cream man
No,
practicing out there?
I got a neighbor that smokes marijuana.
I'm sure you do. I guess
Whatever that noise is, I mean, it's still going.
Yeah, it's not going to stop, dude.
Brian, do you want me to get off here and go see if open the door and see if there's anything out there?
You think something's out the front door?
Is he ringing the bell the entire time?
No, Granny, you don't.
Let me in. Let me in.
It's fine. It's fine.
If it's death, don't open the door.
Thank you, Craig. This person thinks it's a stove timer.
Have you burned the roast?
No, I don't have a stove. You want me to just get off here?
No. We're going to barrel through it.
I'd love it.
You're not even doing anything. Granny, Nick says that you've got an old-fashioned analog alarm clock in Terry's bedroom.
I don't know. I got a new alarm clock, battery operated. Is that what she meant?
Well, whatever it is, it's going haywire right now.
Oh, it might be my alarm.
Do you think?
But it's way back in the bedroom.
Don't worry about it right now. But when the show's over, you might want to go...
That's what it is.
Okay.
Solve the mystery.
Is there a reason you didn't turn it off when it started ringing?
Well, I wasn't in there. I didn't.
Duh.
I took a nap. I took a nap and set the alarm. I thought I shut it off, but I probably didn't.
No.
You probably didn't.
That's life.
I would say with a good deal of certainty that you didn't turn it off.
Brian, that's life around here.
Yeah, I'm well aware. I do the show with Dave, too.
Say,
Hear all sorts of things in the background.
did I do that? You know,
Yeah, you did do that.
or I thought I did that, but I didn't.
in there.
I wake up and I see lights on and I say, I didn't turn those lights on. What's going on?
Maybe the place is haunted.
Could be.
Okay.
It's my brain that's haunted.
Well, I hope not. Instead of suffering through the YouTube chat, click like and subscribe.
Welcome back to the show. Mike Sempervive and Filthy Tom Lawler here with you. We do this show right here for an hour at a time every single day, but if you want us 24/7, you can try to find us on Twitter/X. I am at Sempervive. Tom is at Filthy Tom Lawler. Brian is at Bryan Alvarez. The website is at WONF4W, and the broadcaster is at Sports Byline USA. Jim Valley is here with you on Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and on Sunday, Andrew Zarian joins you beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'd also love it if you made the wrestling news part of your day, wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or head on over to thewrestlingnews.com and at Wrestling News AV on Facebook and Twitter. Every single day of the year, everything you need to know to get you up to date, get you started, or get you to your favorite long-form review pod like Wrestling Observer Radio. A new edition of that is going to be up for subscribers after AEW Dynamite tonight with Bryan Alvarez and with Dave Meltzer. I'll tell you how you can become a member of the website a little later on in the show, but without any other further ado, before he falls asleep over there in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, Filthy Tom Lawler. Tom, thank you once again for coming off the bench, coming out of the bullpen, and saving your former tag team partner.
Hey, buddy, I wasn't falling asleep over here. I was enjoying the sultry sounds of one Mike Sempervive.
Like velvet.
Yeah. I mean, it's a voice I can't get enough of. Whether it's on here, whether it's the wrestling news, making it a part of my life, no matter what it is, Mike. Always glad to be here with you. Always glad to bail out Brian so that I can hold it over his head in the future.
True or false? It was the admin Mike Big Audio Nightmare that interested you in becoming not only a member, but a voice of F4WOnline.com.
Truly inspirational in many ways, I can say. Never did I listen to a show so many times and think to myself, I could actually do better than this. But I did, and here we are, Mike.
I'd like to think that that is my biggest legacy, because I've now been doing this for, over 20 years, damn near 22 years. I was doing a podcast before they were even called podcasts, and I'd like to think that my legacy is having people hear me and go, yeah, I can do that. And then those people actually achieved something while I'm still here talking to you.
Well, that's achieving something.
It is achieving something. You know who else achieved something?
We don't need to fight, Mike. Just because Brian's not here, we don't need to argue with each other.
No.
But no, you left me wide open, so I had to take the shot. I apologize.
You've been left wide open plenty of times before for people to take their shots, but I will transition from that very poorly to Bryan Danielson not believing that Swerve Strickland could be released from WWE. Danielson praised his all-in opponent during a recent interview with Justin Barrasso. Says, quote, Swerve was perfect at All In. Said Danielson, who won the AEW World title from him. I mean, he's incredible. He just signed a new contract with AEW, and that is one of the benefits of having two mainstream wrestling companies in the United States. WWE did not see value in him, and they let him go. And you watch him and ask, who would ever let go of this guy? He just wasn't given the opportunity to be his best self. We'll get to who was the person that said he's got no value in a moment. Strickland worked for WWE from 2019 to 2021. Danielson didn't hammer WWE during the interview. He just said that Swerve's release shows why it's important to have two major companies. Says some people will thrive in WWE, some people will thrive in AEW. There will be people that thrive in both places, and there will be people that will be underutilized. If someone doesn't see value in you, you can try somewhere else. He says he's impressed with Swerve. I can't say enough about him as a professional wrestler or a human being. Swerve was part of several dozen releases, like damn near 100 releases during 2021, including a few days where they just mass released people all at the same time. But Tom, Swerve was released by Vince McMahon. And not only was Swerve released by Vince McMahon, there were a lot of people that were released by Vince that Triple H tended to like while they were down in NXT, and part of it had to do with the fact that they were going to rebrand NXT, but Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, plenty of people that Triple H liked a lot. There were people that came back who Triple H was a fan of, Bronson Reed, the Wyatt family, obviously. Braun Strowman came back, Nia Jax, Tegan Nox, Karrion Kross, and Scarlett, some folks like that, but a lot didn't. And in the case of Swerve, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the issue was Vince didn't see anything in the surrounding act of Ashante the Adonis B-Fab and AJ Francis, Top Dollar. And it was, we're going to change everything, dump the group. And he said, no, I'm riding with my group. And then they went ahead and released everybody. And Swerve was one of the people that was talked about, heavily rumored, but that's all it was a rumor that he was the one that dropped dime on WWE when they came calling. And all of the talk started about, WWE is tampering with AEW contracts. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't really seem like it was a WWE thing. One, it was a Tony Schiavone thing, a Vince McMahon thing, and that was the reason that those guys went.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of what the initial reason was, I don't think anybody can argue with the fact that it turned out as best as it could, I believe, for Swerve Strickland. If you go back and look, how many years ago was that he was released?
21.
20.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that he would have been able to raise his profile to the level that he has in WWE in the 3 years like he has in AEW. I don't know if, especially when you look at the top of the card in WWE, I don't know if there's a place where he fits in to become the world champion over the past 3 years. And in AEW, not only did he achieve that goal, but really, when I think about it, he's been the best champion easily over the past year that they've had. He kind of got the belt, back on track in some ways, and he's gonna pay for it by being a top star for the rest of his life.
Yeah, by getting a huge contract and getting paid, and hopefully investing that for the rest of his life. The guy who got the short end of the stick in that one, in a way, was Samoa Joe, since he was the one that actually took the belt away. And I thought he was having a pretty good reign with some bad storylines that he was attached to that led into the Swerve reign. And I kind of lumped those two together. But I was looking at the list of people that were released in 2021. Do you remember who the first person to be released for any reason was that year?
I was going to say Mandy Rose.
Lars Sullivan. Remember him?
I do remember Lars Sullivan. He was preparing to make a comeback bare knuckle boxing.
Really?
If I remember, but I don't think that ever ended up happening.
Months after that, Velveteen Dream was also released. Some people that actually were released and then re-signed with WWE. Ashante did, B-Fab, Andrade, who went to AEW and then went back, Bronson Reed, Bray Wyatt, Bo Dallas, Braun Strowman, Chelsea Green, Mia Yim, Nia Jax was another one of them. Tegan Knox, Karrion Kross, Scarlett, Kairi Sane, Johnny Gargano, and I believe Mickie James may have made another appearance for WWE after that release as TNA champion. I believe that she did against Roxanne Perez. So there were people that obviously were brought back, but the list of names that WWE had released, and it's amazing how many of those names went over to AEW. Like and Andrade are no longer there anymore. Lana's another one. Mark Henry just departed. So yeah, a lot of names. One of those names, too, Tom, Keith Lee. Have you heard anything? Are there any locker room rumblings, rumors, anything? What happened to Keith Lee?
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but I don't want to say he hit his limit. Hopefully we see Keith Lee back in action.
Mia Yim doing what needs to be done in the ring to take care of that family. We'll be back. Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, Filthy Tom Lawler here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. Tom, you have Prince Field Reserve?
Oh, of course. Back in the day.
Did you like how it had the 211 written in the bottle? We used to call it 911 because that's what you would need after you had a couple of them.
Yeah, I was also fortunate enough to kind of be around during the heyday of the original Four Loko.
Were you around were you in UFC when they had the Mickey's branding, when they had the Mickey Stinger bottles of malt liquor? The official white guy malt liquor, to me, it was always Mickey's malt liquor.
Yeah, I believe that UFC was sponsored by Mickey's during that time.
You got no free swag out of that?
Well, you know what? They've gone through all of them because I remember Bud Light wasn't paying Brock Lesnar nothing at UFC 100, and I was on that show, so...
That's right. He was going to drink a Coors. Yeah. Did he actually have his Coors backstage?
Brock wasn't hanging out with me backstage. He was with Paul Heyman in their own locker room, I'm sure.
One of the few times where Dana White was ever actually upset with Brock Lesnar. Like, come on, there's a lot of money here. Fine, you can drink Coors. We'll get you Coors. Just don't say anything bad about Bud Light. I remember that with Miller Lite before that, and that was the, I guess they were the ones who brewed Mickey's at the time. And it's like, we can't go all the way in. We'll give you the malt liquor first, but ended up working out. It's pretty much okay for the UFC, as pretty much everything has. It's got nothing to do with AEW Dynamite tonight, but that is taking place on TBS, live from the Mohegan Sun Arena in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. It is Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, not Wilkes-Barre. Been yelled at enough about that one. Chris Jericho against Orange Cassidy. The Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada against Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, and Konosuke Takeshita. Mariah May and Serena Deeb against Queen Aminata and Yuka Sakazaki. And the Beast Mortos against Ricochet. Are you excited for any of that?
I am looking forward to anytime you see the Beast Mortos
Hell yeah.
in action. It's awesome. Of course, he's going to be there to base for Ricochet. Also, how can you not love Yuka? So it's always good to see her back in action on Dynamite.
I can tell you how people wouldn't love her. It's by listening to the promos. You liked that, didn't you? You enjoyed the ultra high-voiced anime style of promo that she did, saying hi and bye to Mariah May?
Well, what is she going to do? Cut some promo in perfect English? I mean,
she doesn't have to sound like Barry White, but I don't think that was her real voice, was it? It's kind of
I think so.
Yeah, if it was, don't cut any promos. But I do like her wrestling in the ring, and Queen Aminata and Serena Deeb have been mixing it up, yes?
Now, did I hear, I'm sorry if I didn't hear her name mentioned, but did I hear Danny Garcia mentioned at all?
No, not either The Rock's wife or the guy that laid out MJF and gave him a big kiss. No, Danny Garcia has been announced for the show.
Thank you. I was going to say, because, I mean, the bidding war going on it's amazing to me that people don't see the value in a woman who is the CEO of Terramana, Athletic Con, $7.
$7.
Think about the synergy between the WWE and all of these productions. If they could get Danny Garcia on board, Mike.
Well, I thought they already had Danny Garcia on board because they have The Rock on board. And even though they're divorced, isn't she just as much of a cog in the executive production game of that company as he is? Which means she's putting out some funding and, taking the return as well?
Mike, are you here to kill my jokes?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
The biggest joke is the fact that Danny Garcia, who laid out MJF, gave him a big kiss, hurt him with a pile driver off the ropes, isn't going to be on the show. That's enough of a joke in itself, and the fact that guy, who you would assume you would want to push and make a big deal since he laid out the biggest deal that your company has, character-wise at least, maybe not wrestling-wise, that would be Bryan Danielson, and he's not announced. I don't want to sound like Brian here when it comes to some of this stuff, but, why is he not on this show? Why would he not be on this show and announce for this show?
Oh, he might be on the show, but you can't announce every single thing. Every single week.
But if you know he's going to be there, you can say he's going to have a match or he's going to be there. And where is his mindset after laying out MJF? We'll hear from Danny Garcia. Isn't that what you want to do to promote somebody?
Well, where's this show taking place?
Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Close enough to Buffalo.
Yeah, Yeah, I was going to say maybe this isn't a Danny Garcia town, but yeah.
Oh, he's got that kind of sway now. Well, then again, we hear that from a lot of people. They don't want to show up. They won't show up. They don't like the creative. Tony will say, okay, fine. I guess maybe that's the case here with Danny Garcia. I remember Bryan saying that he doesn't believe that he signed. And I thought he had signed, and it is baffling to me. One, I would have given him the victory over MJF if you're going to build the guy up, but okay, fine. They didn't do that, but he gets that big revenge afterwards where, okay, people will forget about the loss, and he's got this, but it's like, either way, if he's not signed, why did you do any of that? You could have had somebody else lay out MJF if that was going to be the case. To me, even if you think he's going to come back, why would you put him in that prominent a position with the chances that he would just walk right out the door?
Well, yeah. I mean, if he has not re-signed, then I think it's a odd thing to put him in the situation where, even though he lost, he was the one left standing at the end after delivering that pile driver off the top rope. But, if he is signed, if he has re-signed, maybe he's being held off to come back for bigger things. Maybe he's going to be the one to try to help Bryan Danielson. Maybe we're being, maybe Yuta isn't going to be the one to back up the American Dragon at the end. Maybe it'll be Daniel Garcia stepping in and fighting against Moxley and Pac and all these guys on the side of Bryan Danielson. So, hey, maybe he's going to fail upwards.
After Dynamite wraps up, I know something about that in life. After Dynamite wraps up, they'll be taping Friday night's Rampage show as well. We are 2 weeks away from Dynamite Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium. They have 4 matches announced for that show, and I don't think that they're probably going to add too much more to that show. Tom, you pointed it out a couple before All Out. Pointed it out before All In. It seems like in the builds right before the pay-per-view, Dynamite is going to be 4 matches and a whole lot of talking and angles to make things move into the pay-per-view. On this show, with the matches that they have, I mean, it's kind of like a pay-per-view with Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness and Young Bucks and Fletcher and Ospreay. I'm sure is going to get a whole lot of time there. Can you see them, if you had to add one match to that show, would you add something like Takeshita and Okada, which you could easily set up tonight? Or is that something that you would hold off for later on? If you had to add one match to that show, what do you think it is?
Well, it's probably a female match, I would imagine. So, Mariah May.
I guess maybe
Mina.
We can have the Queen Aminata Serena Deeb feud reach its peak, or
I don't think that's what you're going to get.
No, in fact, probably, if anything, Yuka Sakazaki and Mariah May as the women's match for that show would probably make a whole lot of sense as well, unless Marina Shafir is going to jump in and choke out Darby Allin. I don't know, man.
Yeah, and another thing, I mean, Mercedes loves to be on big shows.
True.
Too, so, I'm not quite sure what the direction is for her right now after the past few weeks, but maybe it'll be a Mercedes Moné match. Maybe you get some all-star match with the 2 champions on the same team against, who knows, Yuka and somebody else.
October 12th, Wrestle Dream in Tacoma. November 23rd, Full Gear in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey. That's the one I keep forgetting about on the pay-per-view schedule. Then December 28th, World's End. And then January 5th, Wrestle Dynasty in Tokyo, a day after the Tokyo Dome. Yes.
Hey, thank God. Why even bother with this Wrestle Dynasty or whatever if World's End is happening December 28th? We should be preparing for that.
I wonder where they're going to put Okada and Takeshita. I mean, you could put it on Wrestle Dynasty. I mean, it's your pay-per-view. Yes, you're sharing it, but it's your pay-per-view, and you can have your guy, quote-unquote, Konosuke Takeshita, be the guy that pins Okada in his home territory. I mean, is that something that has legs or no shot?
I just feel like that match is coming sooner than later, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it at Wrestle Dream, honestly. You have to remember, the initial announcement of Wrestle Dream was to be a kind of a memorial show for Antonio Inoki, right? And what better matchup, I guess, could you have than a guy who was the spirit of New Japan for so long, for the past 10 or so years, against the guy who is an invader of sorts in that world. So,
think Tony still has the red scarf hiding somewhere? You think he's going to break that back out again? It'll go a lot better for him than Nakajima.
He should have Josh Barnett show up and slap everybody in the locker room.
Speaking of places where you can get slapped, GLEAT is one of those places. And Kota Ibushi, remember him? He's going to be making an appearance there on one of the drunkest-looking shows of the year. We'll talk about it when we get back from break. Wrestling Observer Live. Back on the show, Mike Sempervive, Filthy Tom Lawler here with you. Didn't realize we still had Wale in the deck there, but last week AEW Dynamite did 716,000 viewers and a .21 average. It's averaged around 700,000 in 4 of the last 5 weeks, gotten close to it at least. Speaking of ratings, this past Saturday's Collision, you've probably already heard, it no do so good. Smallest audience in its normal Saturday time slot, 268,000 people. 0.08, the second lowest demo rating for the show in its normal time slot. Despite that, it still finished in 7th place for the night amongst original cable primetime programming. Monday's Raw drew an audience of 1.564 million to the USA Network, according to WrestleNomics. That was up from last week's 1.43 million, rating the 18 to 49-year-old demographic a 0.49, which was also up. There are no ratings when it comes to GLEAT on YouTube. They put their shows up for free. And this one is drunk and needs mild hallucinogens, which means it's right up the alley of our own filthy Tom Lawler. Kota Ibushi will be making an appearance October 6th, Edion Arena in Osaka. No opponent yet named, but this is the lineup for the show. For the LEAT, which is the sponsor of this UWF Championship, Katsuhiko Nakajima against Masakatsu Funaki, who I believe is in his 60s, Tom?
Ledet is the owner of GLEAT.
The owner, not okay. I couldn't even remember who actually owned the thing. I know it doesn't make any money.
Wow.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, does it?
I don't know. I enjoy
One
it.
FC can at least say that they make some money somewhere doing something. I mean, they're not making any money either, are they? I mean, they make a little. But look, Ledet, this is one of the things. I mean, a lot of people thought that this could be something. You know, Shima has been there. A lot of people have tried to blow some kind of wind into GLEAT, and it really hasn't happened. In a way, it's too bad because, again, these shows can be really wacky. You can have a lucha tag team match. You can have a really good shoot style match. You can have a normal tag, like all of this stuff on one show. But, and look, I'll just keep going here with this one. The G-Rex champion, Hayato Tamura, against Parker Boudreaux.
Yeah, well, hey, those of you who have not seen Tamura, which I assume is probably the majority of you, he is a powerhouse. If there's one guy on the roster probably who could match Parker Boudreaux for physicality, it's going to be Tamura. And he's also going in as a guy with far more experience against a person making their debut in the country. So it'll be interesting to see him navigate this wild animal, Parker Boudreaux.
Boudreaux's like one of those, and I'm happy for him that he's getting to go over there, but it's like when you would hear like Jim Steele in All Japan, or you look at names and it's like, how did Jax Dane end up in New Japan during that time? And it's like Parker Boudreaux. I wonder how many people they had gone through before they got to Parker Boudreaux for this opportunity. The Rascals are on the show against Tetsuya Izuchi and Kaito Ishida for the G Infinity Tag Team Championship. Ricochet and Shima against El Hijo del Vikingo, who I'm not sure is even cleared or not, but I guess he is, and Soma Watanabe. You like that one?
Yeah, that's going to be something else. I mean, no guarantee that things just don't go off the rails and we see some insanity in that match. Just think about what Ricochet and Vikingo could conjure up with the help of two other guys in there.
Kaol Uno, who's a former UFC fighter, way back when Jens Pulver and BJ Penn, what would that be, UFC 30 or whatever it is, 49 years old. He'll be on the show, as well as a guy named Shrek, Hideki Sakini, who's facing Canton Man. I believe that's how it is. I wish it was Canteen Man, and it was an actual grown-up version of the character Adam Sandler would play on Saturday Night Live, Canteen Boy, and it's just a more grown-up version of that. Actually, I guess that would be the Man Scout, would actually be a grown-up version of that. But Shrek, who the last time I saw him was on a 1FC show, and he got knocked out in 11 seconds, but he'll be showing off some of his wares as well, too, shoot style.
Oh, he got knocked out by Alan Niglani.
Yes, all natural.
Seconds, I believe, is what you're referring. I have seen him in action since then. Actually, he competed on the Inoki Bombaye Ganryajima show that I was on, where I faced Katsuyori Shibata a few years ago. So, and he won. on that one. I believe he's a veteran of Verizon, most of the Japanese MMA companies over there. So, and he looks insane, most importantly.
NXT tickets for the second show on the CW October 8th. They went on sale today. Not sure how they've been selling or not. I haven't checked WrestleTix, but the show was originally announced for the Enterprise Center, which is an 18,000-seat building, and that's where Raw is going to be the night before. They wanted to hold both shows in that building, but according to WrestleTix, even though they only had it set up for 4,285, only 2,196 tickets were distributed, so WWE made the decision to switch the venue to the factory at the District in Chesterfield, which is about 23 miles west of St. Louis. Randy Orton against Javon Evans was a match made on last night's NXT show. The NXT Tag Team Championship will also take place. Nathan Frazier and Axiom against A-Town Down Under, and Sexy Red making another appearance as well. Randy Orton and Javon Evans, that sounds good to me. And I know that like his matches against Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston don't really get talked about a lot because Randy Orton's been around forever and his big feuds with Mick Foley and John Cena and Triple H and everybody else, Edge, all of those take precedence here. But win or lose, and I know Brian doesn't want to hear that because he would want to see Javon Evans get the win here, but win or lose, I bet you this is going to be a really, really good match. And is there any way, even in these modern times, even though Randy Orton could do anything and people will still respond to him when he gets up on SmackDown on Friday night, is there any chance that Javon Evans gets the victory over Randy Orton?
I don't think so.
That's it, just a really good match, and that's it. Or is it going to be a terrible match? I know Brian wants you to say it's going to be a terrible match so he can be in a huge mood before it even takes place.
I mean, it's not the match that I expected that we'd be getting. You know, obviously you would just think that Randy Orton would come in, lay waste to some heel on the roster, get the big pop. So it's interesting that they're, you know, going the different way and having him come in. And he's in his hometown, so of course he's going to be playing the baby face. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how he gets Javon Evans, I guess, either cheered or booed. You know, I don't know.
Well, it'll be
interesting dynamic.
I wonder if, you know, anybody ever admits, you know, at what point they decided to have Randy Orton, face off against Javon Evans, because, you know, he was initially just announced to make an appearance, but obviously the ticket sales did not go very well, and for whatever reason they decided, again, it's a small building that they're in. It's only like 2,000 people, so they should sell the thing out, but it'd be interesting to see when they decide to say, hey, Randy, why don't you actually have a match on that show as well, too, but get to what happened on NXT last night, run through it here real quick. Contract signing between Ethan Page and Trick Williams opened up the show. Page talked for pretty much the whole segment, and I thought cut a really good promo getting in Trick's face. When Trick got back up into his, Page kicked him low, powerbombed him through a table, and because of that, the contract wasn't signed, which Vic Joseph noted. Now, did you see any of this show at all, Tom?
Yeah.
The powerbomb spot I thought was kind of generic, but I thought the promo was really good, and I think that Ethan Page has been a good champion for NXT, and I think he's one of those guys that if you put him into a smaller pond with much bigger fish, I think he's going to have some issues, but in a place like NXT, it's almost perfect for someone like him.
Well, and he's the only character that's kind of like that, you know, that they have right now on NXT, which goes a long way. He definitely has benefited from being somebody who was in another company, was not oversaturated, and, you know, when he was on TV, was able to get the people behind him and kind of almost in a grassroots manner, and NXT was able to capitalize on that, you know, right away. And he's been a good talent. He's been a good talent for years. You know what I mean? This is no different than the Ethan Page that we would see as a top player in TNA. Remember that as part of the North? I mean, he was great then. He
and Josh Alexander were fantastic together as a team. They were really, really good. First match, Tatum Paxley and Lyra Valkyria defeating Wendy Chu and Rosemary. I'm sure that didn't make Bryan very happy at all. 2 commercial breaks during this. Bottom line is, Paxley hit her weird finisher on Rosemary, and Lyra followed it up with a double leg drop off the top rope to get the pin. In the locker room, the No Quarter Catch crew welcome back Tavion Heights. Ren Sinclair jumped in to talk, and when she did, Charlie Dempsey said, hey, you need to go prove yourself. So she chopped his chest and said that she would. Hammerstone defeated Tony D'Angelo by countout. If Bryan wasn't done after the first match, he may have been done after this one. D'Angelo started the match looking nervous, couldn't get in any sustained offense. Then he got full-blown sad and left the ring and walked away. Later on in the show, that he admits to the family, well, Obafemi's a big guy, and he didn't say he was scared, but Rocky 3 style, or Rocky 4 style, I can't beat him. It's too much for him. So, again, another Rocky-style storyline here, I would assume, with Tony D'Angelo. But, yeah, I thought the most interesting part of this, Tom, because Hammerstone, he went up to Hammerstone and said, you need to ask for a rematch. I paid you money, and you didn't get the job done. Go ask for a rematch. And Hammerstone was like, man, Obafemi's a beast. No. Why doesn't he at least give the money back then? What's that about?
I don't know. Odd interaction there.
Eddie Thorpe beat Ashante Villadanis in about 3.5 minutes. During the intro where he came out, Ashante looked over into the crowd, handed a rose to a totally not planted at all woman. And then he, later on in the match, went up to the top rope, saw the woman again, got distracted, blew her a kiss. Then he missed his spying body press, and Thorpe got the DDT for the win. A vignette played of sad Thea Hale and Riley Osborne talking about Ridge Holland turning on Chase U. Thea says Ridge broke her heart, and Riley challenges him to a match next week, which later on in the show, Ridge Holland accepted. CM Punk, he was a focal point of the second hour. Started off cutting a promo that was interrupted by Roxanne Perez. Ended up leading to a Roxanne-Julia confrontation. Later on in the show, though, when it was time for the contract signing, Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers was the man that Ava trusted to get this job done. And after Paige and Trick signed the contracts, out came CM Punk to announce that he was going to be the special guest referee for the match. Yes?
Unless it's Bill Laimbeer, you cannot count on any basketball player in history to be the man to enforce the rules. Are you kidding me? Have you seen some of these fights in the NBA? You could do better.
They're terrible. They're weak. We grew up during the 90s, and forget about Bill Laimbeer. I want Charles Oakley to be the special guest enforcer. That'll get things done. Wrestling Observer Live. Sempervive and Filthy Tom Lawler here with you. Wish you cut out all the interviews and nonsense and commercials and all that stuff out of NXT. I mean, that was pretty much everything. The only things we didn't get to there in that last segment were Kalani Jordan cutting a promo on Fatal Influence when Ren Sinclair did what she told Charlie Dempsey she was going to do, and that was go make an opportunity for herself, and she slapped the hell out of Kalani Jordan. Then when Kalani didn't fall and was looking for revenge, Ren Sinclair went screaming off, and that was that. That was pretty much it, other than Brooks Jensen defeating the bookworm Dion Lennox as well, too. But any thoughts, Tom, on anything from last night's show?
No more than that. I mean, I'm looking forward, honestly, to the move to the CW network. Obviously, you would like to fill up that arena that they were only selling 2,000 tickets for, but I think it's cool to have a different look for NXT rather than it just being, another WWE show on piggybacked off of one of the other ones. I like the different aesthetics. I think one thing that is sorely missing, from WWE programming, and maybe NXT will be the exception to the rule, is some grime, a little bit of dirtiness, a little bit of edginess. And, maybe just by being in different venues, NXT can capture that.
I like the small clubs idea. I mean, they can't have a bunch of them. They don't have to go to like the 2,300 arena or something like that. But to have a second performance center in Vegas and to once in a while go to smaller venues and try to capture that feel from the performance center crowd, I think is a good idea. Plus, again, it just gets you out of there and gives a little bit of a different look with people that you know are going to be rabid. Plus, a little competition for the Performance Center fans may not be a bad thing either. Filthy Tom Lawler has no competition at all, and we have no time remaining. So I thank him, I thank producer John, I thank producer Dom, and I thank all of you out there for watching and listening. My name is Mike Sempervive. We shall talk to you again after a while.